been a minute since I checked in with some afternoon wood. Thought I'd come in and talk about some cycling. I'm still at it. So that's what today's afternoon wood is. It's the start. Well, we're a few weeks into the season now. And I was kind of putting some things together on my podcast. It's always personal. I was trying to get a guest on to talk about cycling from their perspective, but it just didn't pan out just yet. So I'll get back to that. A couple of things before I talk about what I wanted to get into, which is the purpose of weekend rides, weekend group rides, like the benefit of that for individuals. I'll get into that in a second. But just a couple things to throw out there for any of my people that are into cycling. The first one, Juneteenth weekend over in Indianapolis, is I believe it's the first Major Taylor Invitational. I think it's June 17, 18, and 19th. Kind of a historic moment for the club nationally, or the association nationally, to get together and have 3 days of riding. I think the highlight of it is the Saturday ride. It's kind of like your metric century, and maybe like a half metric century or something. So that's going to be pretty fun, I think. I'm looking forward to it. I would think any Major Taylor club across the country, there's some interest from a lot of members in those clubs to attend this particular event. The second thing is, for my club here in Dayton, Ohio, the Major Taylor Cycling Club of Dayton, a month later, well, not quite a month, but in July 8th, 9th, and 10th, we're doing our signature ride, which is going to be basically the same format as the Major Taylor Invitational. That Saturday will be like the metric century, 62 miles, then a full century, 100 miles, and then there's some shorter routes in there for riders that want to ride shorter distances. So that's all out there. You can Google it and get to both of those. The Major Taylor Invitational in Indianapolis next month in June, and then the MTCCD in July. So just a couple of things that I wanted to cover on my podcast about cycling, with the season in full swing now for a lot of people. But, with this being my second year riding with others and kind of with clubs and groups and whatnot, what's going on with it? And this was kind of a check-in and just talk about where I'm at with what I've been trying to do. And, I'm still trying to get to the level of fitness I was looking for, a personal body weight that I'm interested in getting down to, and then just continuing to grow as a cyclist, and getting out, exploring new things, or having new experiences, networking a little bit more, so on and so forth. So a couple of things that I had. One that I try to tell anybody that I try to talk to about cycling, like a newcomer or approaching a buddy or a friend or something about cycling, just let your enthusiasm guide your growth with cycling. It's a certain amount of startup money and time that needs to be invested into cycling. You don't have to run out and do everything at once, but just do what you need to do to support your level of enthusiasm towards it. You know what I'm saying? There's not a certain bike that you have to ride with or start with. There aren't groups that you have to ride with. There really is nothing that you have to do. And that's a beautiful thing about it. You can just go at your own pace. And so let your enthusiasm guide, your growth with cycling. That's how much money that you put into this, to the stuff. That's how much time you put into it. If your enthusiasm dictates XYZ, then that's what you do to be able to do what you want to do with the sport. And you don't have to do nothing beyond that. Along with that though, my second thought on it was like, find out where you need to be for you. These cycling clubs are great. You know, networking at the local bike shop is great. And getting out here and riding with different groups in your area or city, all of that's really great. But I would just go about it in a manner that's gonna work for you. You know, you may, as a newcomer, you might encounter one group and you might outgrow that group for whatever reason. Go look into the next group to get in with, and be flexible enough and open-minded enough to go out and meet whoever or whatever group you need to meet that's going to allow you to continue with your growth in the, you know, in your interest level in cycling. It's really simple. But that leads me to this one thing that I was thinking of, like, what was the major point? And I think for where I'm at and with the club in my area, one thing that happened last year when I first showed up, we only had one weekend ride relatively early into the season. And after showing up for about 2 or 3 weeks of the group rides, which was 2 nights a week, and, you know, improving and getting stronger and achieving gains in a few different areas, somebody was like, oh, one of the veterans in the club was like, look, I'm gonna set up a weekend ride this weekend, this Saturday, and, you know, we're gonna ride faster, harder. It should be more people there. Maybe it'll be more serious riders there. It was almost like any other thing that we've, as adults, that you've been, whether it was bowling night, you know, the guys are the scratch bowlers, scratch golfers. If you've been in any pool or pool leagues, the dudes who can, you know, the hitters. And so I showed up for the first Saturday ride and saw some new faces, some stronger riders. You know, some dudes came out with really nice bikes, or, you know, people put on like their Sunday best, their kits. And I was like, oh, okay, you know, I haven't seen a lot of these dudes. And we went out and rode like 50 miles that day, 55 miles. And it was new challenges. Like I said, it was a different level of riding from the weeknight rides. And I was like, that was part of me kind of being hooked with the club riding and the group rides. It was like, yeah, you know, you know, during the weeknight, we might do 30 to 35 miles on those rides. We only got like a 2-hour window to you know, to take advantage of it. And it was kind of the same routes, you know, one of like 4 or 5 different routes that we would ride, and that was cool. But then on the weekend, a Saturday or a Sunday, you know, it's a chance to go from 30 to 35 miles to maybe, like I said, mid-50s, maybe a metric century. Maybe once a month, the club can shoot for a century, you know, 100 miles. And so we did that one weekend ride, and that's really like when my enthusiasm was through the roof. Like, man, I really want to do more, get stronger. I got these different dudes that I can measure myself against, and so on and so forth. Well, that was the last weekend ride that we did as a club. And that was somewhat disheartening because I think cycling, well, I later found out I later found out in doing some reading that there's a individually there's a lot of growth and improvement that you can gain in doing longer distance rides. And then obviously on a Saturday or Sunday morning is when a person is gonna have the time to fit, 55, 65, 70 miles into your schedule. So ironically, when I sat back and thought about it, after I went and did that weekend ride, that longer distance weekend ride, I started seeing improvements after that in the group rides. I started moving up from the back. I got to the middle of the group. I started not being the last person up the hills and whatnot. And I just had all of these different gains that I started experiencing. But that was the last one that my club offered. And so, which takes me back to the first point that I had is that sub point, like you might have to go out here and ride with other people just to go do what you want to do with the sport. And it's not to sit here and badmouth the original group of people that you might have been riding with. It's not to be a curmudgeon and rub people the wrong way. It's not even to show up to your old rides and show out or embarrass other people, discourage other people, make other people feel whatever kind of way. You should avoid all of that. And the way to avoid that is to go out here and, like I said, and just find a ride that suits your needs. That's the responsible and mature thing to go do. So that's pretty much all I was really going to talk about today. You may have to go out and leave your comfort zone and the people that you may have initially developed your interest in the sport with. You might just reach the level that they can take you to, and you just got to go and ask around and find out where you need to be. And so for me, the funny thing and painful and kind of demoralizing thing for myself was I thought I got to a certain level that was pretty good. I thought I was pretty fast, pretty strong and whatever, and started talking with the right person and ended up with a group that it was a rude awakening. It was a rude awakening. I ran into some guys that I couldn't even keep up with. You know what I'm saying? And it put me right back to where I was when I first started. It's some good and bad to that, but it just opened up my eyes to, another level of rider or riders. And, from there you can do what you want to do. You can go back to where you were comfortable, or you can man up and try to figure out how to get in with this new group. And so that's kind of what I've been doing. And I mentioned this last year at the end of the season when I first, because it's locally, there's a group that's north of town that's full of serious riders. They do a weekly ride. And then south of town is another group of serious riders, A-riders. And they do 2 rides a week. And when I went to both of these, I made it to the group north of town at the end of last season, and within about 3 or 4 rides, I started figuring it out and was able to kind of hold my own with that group. Now, fast forward to this year, trying to continue with what I've been trying to do for myself, I started going to a group that's south of town that has the two group rides per week, and it's just ridiculous. Like, I don't even, like, if you're a football fan, you heard of running backs or football players, offensive players that run angry, like Adrian Peterson, AP. They used to say that he ran angry. These dudes ride angry. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, why the hell are you riding so aggressively? You know, why are you trying to ride this hard, 40 miles into this ride or 35 miles into this ride? And, that's what you sign up for with that ride. That one is still a work in progress. You know what I'm saying? I just go and try to do my part, but it ain't, it's not a group that I can go and dominate or do much of anything really. I just try to keep up. But over the last couple of weeks, we just like a month into the season really, with the weather really staying constant. It's been humbling. But I know if I keep showing up, I know I'm gonna get stronger as a cyclist. I'm gonna start moving towards my body weight goals that I had, and I'm just learning a lot more about the sport. It's different conversations to be in when the sport really means something to somebody. And a lot of the guys in this particular group, they actually race on the weekends, which I didn't know that at first. But as I went back, these guys started showing up in all these different team kits and stuff. And I'm listening to some different conversations. When I do get a chance to be around, be up with the faster guys and then following them on Strava, I see these guys are out here racing on the weekends. And then from there, I'm allowed to have a better perspective about why I'm getting my ass kicked out here so bad. Like these dudes is really, I used to put on my Strava that I'm getting it in. Like these dudes are getting it in on a much higher level. So I really quit being as hard on myself, understanding, this person over here is doing like some structured rides, or they've been doing this for multiple years. And then, like I said, on the weekend, you look and these dudes are going and racing in crits, and cycling is a real part of their life. Whereas me, it's a part of my life, but not on that level. So that's what I said, man. Let your enthusiasm guide your growth with cycling. Find out where you need to be for you and whatever you're trying to do in cycling. And then then you have to incorporate weekend rides into your riding if you want to improve. And it doesn't always have to be a weekend ride where you're doing 19 and 20 miles per hour the whole 60 miles or the whole 70 miles. There are some improvements that are going to come just from doing longer distances. And it's articles out there on it. I'm not sitting here trying to break it down and give you the science behind it. Go to GCN or something for that. But doing the longer distance rides are they go hand in hand. The shorter, 20 to 35 or 20 to 40 mile rides, ride those at a faster pace or as fast as you can. That's gonna improve your cycling one way. And then doing a 60 mile and up ride at a pretty good pace, that's gonna improve your cycling in another way. And so if you're doing both of those throughout the week, you become stronger overall, if I had to sum it up. So but like I said, I noticed for me personally, doing the longer distance rides on the weekend was really when I started seeing major improvements in my group rides throughout the on weeknights. So that in a nutshell, like I said, you can Google all this stuff and find some stuff that works for you, but that long distance ride is gonna get you together. And something, and I'm gonna get ready to get off here, but something that I'm noticing now is, because the most appealing thing for me about cycling when I first started, a major thing that I really tuned into was the fact, or focused on, was the fact, the calories that you can burn when you ride. The thing that I'm noticing now is on the group rides, when I'm killing myself, you know, for this 2 hour period, the amount of calories that I'm actually burning seem to be going down, even though I feel like I'm working more. So that's kind of defeating the purpose for me, because I was doing it to burn calories. Then I look at my longer distance ride where I might be out there for 60 miles, and I see, you know, I burn 2,400 calories or 2,800 calories. And that's kind of that's just something that I focus on, because like I said, a large part of what I'm doing with cycling is for weight loss. So that's kind of been odd to me the last 2 weeks, while I've been doing some short distance rides at some higher speeds than what I've ever done before. I'm getting back to the car and seeing my, you know, I only burn like 1,200 calories or 1,300 calories, and my eating ain't great, so that's not really the benefit I'm looking for. I like to be up around 1,800 or 2,000 calories. Then I know I can eat like I want to eat. But that's just something I'm noticing. And I guess that's a, you know, that's a function of getting in better shape, your body getting used to it. You have to find ways to trick your body. You got to do different things. So like I said, that the importance of that weekend ride is not to get out there and waste 5 hours of your time, 6 hours of your time. It's just to be covering all areas of riding, I guess, to benefit you the most. And like I said, it doesn't always have to be putting the hammer down and riding extremely fast. It's just pushing yourself over that duration of time. It's a benefit to that. And so we actually work in, you know, sometimes it's a lunch ride. You know, we might ride 65, 70 miles, but we stop and do a 15, 20-minute lunch. Or stop and eat a pastry, you know, drink some coffee. But it's just like I said, it's getting out there for a longer distance, and I think it's worked well for me in kind of closing the gap to these dudes that's kicking my ass on these 2 nights a week. And then lastly, I say this even, I'm considering doing this now, maybe every 3 or 4 weeks. Just don't even ride for the entire week. Cause this group that I happen to be riding with, those 2 nights, the effort that I put out there on those 2 nights, it's almost just like listening to my body. Is like, man, go sit your ass down. You know, you don't need to go out here and kill yourself like that. So I'm just listening to my body, and when I get out on my bike and I don't have any legs, or I'm just feeling sluggish or whatever, like, you don't have to overwork it. So that's what I'm really considering. Maybe not this week, but like I said, every 4th week, it might be a week where I just go do something else that week. Now that I'm, you know, out here messing around at different levels, gotta mix it up a little bit better. So anyway, that was it. Again, before I get off of here, you know, for anybody that's into the Major Taylor scene, Juneteenth weekend, June 17th, 18th, and 19th over in Indianapolis. All that information is online. The registration has been open. I could imagine that, like I said, I would imagine that any city or area that has a Major Taylor, I would imagine that a lot of members in your club have already registered, you know, and gotten their rooms together and are already figuring out how to attend that one. And then piggybacking on that, locally here in Dayton, we're having our signature ride July 8th, 9th, and 10th. And, you know, we love to see people out, you know, taking part in it. So I'm looking forward to both of those. And we'll see how it goes. Anyway, let me get on off here. Pay me no mind, on 2 wheels. My name is Wood. You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. I'm out. Peace.